11 a.m. right on the dot.
Punctual.
Nice.
Punctual.
Right on time, guys.
Too far from me, I think. Guys, we are live here. Is anyone on yet? Patient? Not yet. Okay, we are getting all set up with the link. Give it a couple minutes or a couple seconds.
Thank you, sir.
Are you feeling energized?
I'm ready to go.
Me too.
There's a little bit of caffeine on this table, eh?
Yeah.
Way too much. Way too much. Almost done, boys.
Give us 1 second. Oh, you can hear too? So Dan, why don't we start with how you feeling today? How was the workout yesterday?
Feeling great. Great way to start the year yesterday. I came out to the East York 11 a.m. resilience. What do you guys call that class? That was a good one.
I just wrote what did I write? Hybrid blitz on there. We had some strength, we had some conditioning.
It was good. I'm sore, man. That chest pump was crazy.
Yeah, I like those supersets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I woke up today, the legs were feeling a little sore, but
Good.
That was a good way to start the year.
Yeah, good way to start the year. I did not get a workout in, but I'm jazzed to get a workout in and get this 2025 fitness. I'm pushing my fitness this year.
Yeah.
Got to.
What are we doing?
I'm just trying. Like I'm gonna go hard on high rocks. I'm gonna keep it. I'm ready for Vegas just around the corner.
Yeah. Are you doing Vegas too?
I'm doing Vegas too, so a month away.
Miami too.
Are you?
Yeah. Progress and hopefully both. I got some time to improve on each. So
Josh got some big goals for the year. So
Yeah.
it's good.
It's gonna be a big
All right,
year.
guys. Well, this is an exciting episode because we have a very good friend and a guest, Dr. Dan Silva from Performance Recovery Therapy.
Yes, sir.
Great to have you,
Yes,
man.
sir. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And we're pumped, man, to
Yeah.
have Dan because he's got so much to bring to the table in the conversation. So, how long have we known Dan for?
Ooh, I think I met you maybe like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's been a short time, but I think we really connected right away, right?
Yeah.
The values, the resilience values with our PRT brand, our PRT values. I think right away we kind of saw that there was a good connection there, synergistic kind of connection.
Right off the bat.
Shared values. Yeah, that first meeting right away, right?
Sure.
And this is a long time coming because we had a lot of clients telling us, you got to meet Dan, and we just that was like for like a year.
I remember when we were opening Durham, Jeremy and a few others reached out to me and said that too. That was about a year ago.
Yeah.
But that would have been around the same time that we started our business, right?
Okay.
And it was the same for us because we had a lot of people that we already treated that were going to resilience. And I saw you guys on Instagram. I saw that new Durham location.
Right.
I saw these two guys who put a ramp in their gym, which was like,
So what is that?
I was like, this is crazy, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
The facility, it looked incredible. So I knew we also had to reach out. We had to make that connection happen somehow.
Right. And here we are today.
Yes.
So we're thankful to have you here. Thanks for coming, man. Before we hop into it, let's get to know you a little bit more for the viewers.
Yep.
Who is Dan and where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your passions.
Yeah, that's a good question. So professionally, I'm a chiropractor. So co-founder, co-owner of Performance Recovery Therapy. We're located in Scarborough. What I do day in, day out at work is we help people recover from injury, and we also help people, maintain that peak performance, right? So two sides of the coin. We're helping people who are injured. We're helping them get back to doing what they love to do. And then I think one of the things that separates what we do at PRT and what I try to do and what our staff tries to do and my business partner, Jericho, we all kind of come together and we try to not only help people who are injured, but we also want to keep people pain-free. We want to keep people from getting injured in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think that differentiates us from some clinics where part of what we're trying to do is also optimize performance, right? So you don't have to be injured to come to us. We want to also, in an ideal world, you're never injured. You're just coming to us to maintain that health, maintain that status quo. Whatever your goals are, whether you're trying to do a marathon, whether you're trying to do high rocks, just keeping you in the gym consistent, ready to crush workout after workout over weeks, months, years. And that's really what that's where progress comes in, right?
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank
So
you.
PRT, tell us a little bit about how it started, and where are you guys located, and how did that all happen?
So my business partner and I, Jerica, we started PRT in the summer of 2023. So it's been a short little
new.
ride, but it feels like 5 years have gone by in the past year and a half.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
It's
How-
crazy.
yeah.
It's like life before owning a business and life after owning a business is like time moves in a different sort of pace.
It's your baby.
It's
So,
like having
yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like having a kid.
Yeah.
For sure.
But like so much happens day in, day out that it almost feels like each year, like more happens within 1 year and a week and a month
Yeah.
than I've ever experienced before. Right. So it feels like we've been doing this forever, but it's been about 18 months now. So we founded PRT in the summer of 2023. In the beginning, it was just the two of us. We had no flooring, we had no blinds. We were just treating out of two of the rooms that had no windows just for privacy's sake, right? So we had two portable tables in those rooms. And the two of us would do each other's billing. We do the reset, like if the phone's ringing and one person doesn't have a patient, they're answering the phone. Just kind of juggling everything. Fast forward to today, year and a half later, we've grown the staff. So we have over 10 staff. We
Wow,
have,
man.
Wow,
That's
that's huge,
wild.
man.
yeah, so we have a team now. We have 2 massage therapists, 2 chiropractors, including myself, and 2 physiotherapists, including my business partner, Jerica. So it's been fun. It's been a ride. And it's been really cool to see that growth happen really quickly too.
Yeah, that's
That
amazing.
sounds like a snowball effect. Like it really just happened so fast.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. It's been a ride. It's been a journey. It's been fun so far. I think we're at chapter 1 right now of the journey, but
What, Dan? Oh, okay.
No, I was just gonna say,
Or-
have you had time to breathe?
no.
I hear that, man.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to, if we're going to be talking about recovery today, like this past year has been like a master class for me in terms of recovery, right? Like I'm coming off of doing my first marathon in October, this past October. And the marathon was one thing, but I think the biggest challenge with that and the biggest challenge that I've found in my own personal fitness over the past year was juggling everything at the same time.
Right.
Right.
We could totally relate, because I think the hardest thing about running a gym is getting our own fitness down pat.
Yeah.
Just kind of keeping up with what we're
Yeah.
what we're sharing with others.
You're in the
right?
gym, people are working out
Yeah.
all day long, hours and hours and hours. And then
Right. You got to take care of your own body.
exactly
and stuff. Yeah.
100% finding the time, right?
Dan, I wanted to ask you, how long were you thinking of starting your own thing, and what pushed you to actually take that leap and actually do it? Because sometimes there's that, I don't know if I should do it.
Yeah.
Should I jump kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the end goal, ever since I was in school, I think the end goal was probably always to have some sort of bit. That's kind of the natural growth in this profession. It's tough to say what kind of pushed that final straw. I think just at some point, it just gets to the point where like you have to just take a leap and get outside of your comfort zone, right?
Okay.
And yeah, that's kind of what entrepreneurship has been for me, and I know for Jerica too. It's just been a consistent day in, day out, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, and really like we talked about yesterday, right? You have no choice but to kind of like
take it on.
Yeah, whenever you decide to do this, you jump outside of your comfort zone, and there's no way to get back into it.
That's the beauty of it.
Just
That's
constantly.
exactly,
constantly
which leads to growth, which leads to like that development. It makes every day a lot more exciting.
You want to touch on Jerica just a little bit? I know she's probably watching.
What's up, Jerica?
What's going on, Jer?
What's up, Jerica?
How does Jerica help with the whole picture, and how does having a partner,
having a business partner has been like everything, right? Like Jerica's been an incredible business partner. I think we work really well together. Like we kind of feed off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. We're very different people.
Yeah.
I have certain strengths, she has certain strengths. So being able to play off of each other's strengths, right? Like I would say I'm more on like the numbers, the business side of things. And then she really excels at more of like some of the soft skills, some of the people managing, some of the stuff like that, right? So it's been amazing to be able to have someone else kind of plug those holes where you are, weak or where you need to improve on, right? And then even just having somebody else that that's going to be there, that cares about the business as much as you do, right? Like, like the same as you guys, right? Like having somebody else who has the same, it's massive.
It helps with just stimulating your brain, I think too, right?
Yeah.
Like someone that can relate. I know that it has helped us like just keep the passion going and fire going, you're not on your own.
Yeah.
So,
And challenging each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I've gotten that from you two guys too. Like even just talking to other business owners, right? Like yourselves, like just seeing the passion that you guys have for resilience, for growing the brand, you know, you guys are doing so much at any given time. And it inspires me to want to, you know, to think outside of the box and think about where we can take PRT in 5 years and 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're off to an amazing start.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
We've been in for a few sessions and they've been awesome, man.
Yeah. It's been fun having you guys at the clinic too, right? Like you guys are both athletes, right? And you guys are both pushing yourselves and you have goals you're trying to do. You know, you're right now it's high rocks. Before it was sports, it was athletics. But it's you guys kind of embody that exact thing that we're talking about, right? Like you came to PRT and you came to us without any specific injuries, right? Like it's, you know, there's tightnesses, things hurt. Things are always going to hurt if you're training at a high level. If you're training at that peak, like right around your limits, things are going to start to pop up. You're going to get those sorts of like little nagging sort of tweaks and things like that, right? But you guys weren't coming in with, you know, back injury, knee injury, anything like that, but you're coming in just to see how you can unlock your body, you know, make the joints, make the muscles function a little bit better. Anything that's going to help you in that journey to train for high rocks, to be able to perform at your best, right?
Is that what you see from most athletes that come to see you? Is that mainly the main thing that you help them with?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a journey. I think there's almost two different groups of people. Like I would say primarily still it's a lot of people dealing with injuries, right?
Yeah.
Like that performance type of care. A lot of people right now are not really focusing on that. A lot of people say that, you know, they're going to prioritize their health, they're going to prioritize recovery, but it's usually one of the first things that gets dropped as soon as people get busy, right?
Yeah.
If they're on vacation, if they have 2 weeks off, they're in the clinic 3-4 times in those 2 weeks. But when kids and life and work and everything gets so crazy, usually people sacrifice their own health in a way, right?
Yeah.
And prioritize other things over that, right? So I think one of the messages, and I've heard it, you know, over the last couple of weeks, a lot of people have been coming into the clinic and everyone's talking about 2025. They're talking about goals. This is around the time of year where everybody promises, you know, they're going to take their health seriously.
We get
I'm
it.
the same way.
Yeah.
You know, you reevaluate your habits going into the new year, right? And then it's about being able to make them stick and keep those healthy habits going forward throughout the rest of the year, right?
Would you say, you know, recovery and just really focusing on that is something that's really neglected for the average gym person, the average gym goer?
Yeah, for sure. I think for the average person, 100%, right? There's the exception to the rule. Like some people they're very, very on top of it. They're dialed in. A lot of times those people have gotten to that point, not just from like, it's usually because of some sort of injury, right? Like people learn best with pain.
Yeah.
Right? Like a pain point creates growth, creates a reason for change, right? So a lot of the times when we have people who are so consistent with their care, with their therapy, with doing their home exercises, with prioritizing their sleep, their nutrition, just managing their health in general, a lot of times it's because those people have gone through really like serious injuries or, you know, have been sidelined from doing what they love doing for weeks, months, years. And then that is like a wake-up call that tells them and that really kind of pushes them to take this stuff seriously, right? So usually it's only after that wake-up call that people really start taking it seriously.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
People they prioritize it once it's a kind of a problem sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's human nature for better or for worse. I think like people learn best when they touch that hot stove and it burns them. You can tell somebody don't touch the hot stove. They're going to touch it anyways, but once they feel that pain from that burn, that's going to really like that lesson's ingrained in them, right?
Right. So recovery as a whole, how would you describe it in your own words? Like what does that mean?
Yeah. I was thinking about this a lot. It's a tough word to define, even though we use it. We literally have it in our business name, right? But it's become such a buzzword lately. To me, recovery means two things. It means preventing injuries.
Yeah.
And it means refilling your battery, making sure that as soon as whatever you're doing to perform in life, whether that's training for, you know, XYZ marathon, high rocks, powerlifting competition, as soon as you finish training, your recovery starts immediately. So that recovery leads back into the next performance, right? That's really
And what can that look like? Like, what does that look like to someone that's like very new to this? What could that look like? Because it could be so many different things,
It
right?
could be, yeah, it could be a number of different things. It all comes down to habits.
Yes.
We can go into some like specific habits. You know, you have the most important things when it comes to recovery fall into, I think, three categories: sleep, nutrition, what you're putting into your body. That also includes hydration. And then also one thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is stress management as well.
Yeah.
Because if there's any two things, three things that are really going to kill your progress in the gym, if you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to be recovered for your next workout. You're not going to be able to push as hard. Your risk of injury actually goes way up as well if you're not sleeping.
Mm.
So there's a really interesting study that they did on, I think it was Marines in the US, where they looked at two groups. One group was sleeping for over 8 hours a night, and the other one slept for less than 4 hours a night.
Mm-hmm.
The group that slept for less than 4 hours a night had like 200% higher chance of getting injured.
Yeah.
Mm.
Those are
Wow,
huge
that's wild.
numbers,
Yep, yep,
right?
yep.
We had an interesting conversation yesterday because we were talking about just kind of this stuff, the being aware of this stuff, and we were talking about training hundreds and hundreds of clients through resilience. We sometimes see some injuries,
Yeah.
and we were talking about just for clients bringing awareness to like their stress management, how
Yeah.
much they're sleeping, and really being aware of that. So when they're going to the gym, they can be, if they're conscious of that, they can kind of scale their training up and down depending on this stuff. Because if you're not sleeping, you're stressed out. Like you said, you're much more prone to injury. So being
100%.
aware of this can help you really.
Yeah. It starts with awareness, I think. And it starts with just like knowing your body, understanding that stress even impacts that. A lot of people don't realize how much psychological and emotional stress can put you at risk for injury, right?
Definitely.
Another study that I always go back to that I remember like hearing about 8-10 years ago was that D1 NCAA football players, they looked at how many times injuries happen during exam season
Mhm.
and then how many times
Wow.
injuries happen outside of exam season. It was like 3 times more chance of getting injured during exam season than outside of exam season.
Hmm.
So
And
why
is
would
that,
that
Dan? Is it cortisone and like all that? It's
It-
probably a big part of it, right?
I think it's everything. It's just the stress, the load on the body. That's the only difference, right? Because it's not like games are tougher outside of exam season. It's not like as a quarterback you have a higher risk of getting, low cut or something outside of exam season. It's all comes down to the readiness, the recovery patterns in the body.
Yeah.
And these athletes would be training, they'd be playing sports, they'd be competing at during in these states where they're not fully recovered.
Yeah.
Right.
Your body probably is really tense
Yeah.
under stress.
100%.
I say a lot, like in class, I'm like, you guys are gonna perform better if you're having fun.
Yeah.
Because then your body's relaxing. You can just be loose, right?
Yeah. I think that's and being an athlete too, right? Like how does performance differ when you're anxious, when you're stressed out versus when you can just get into that flow state and just kind of like just have fun doing it, right?
Yeah.
You see kids, you see adults just have more fun. Like Steph Curry when he's playing, he looks like he's having fun, right?
It's true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right? You're in that flow state.
Makes it look easy, right?
Exactly.
You said something really interesting. You said recovery actually starts even before a workout or prior to.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like sleep and
As
preparing.
soon as that last workout ends,
Right.
it's like that recovery clock starts to get you to that next workout,
It's
right?
a continuous cycle.
Yeah.
We talked about a little bit about nutrition yesterday, and I was asking you about supplements, and I want to give our viewers some like because obviously whole foods and all that everyone knows are good. You can't
Yep.
be eating processed food, but in terms of supplementation, is there anything that you would recommend as like a no-brainer for some people that are exercising a lot?
Yeah. In terms of for me, training for this marathon, I think gave me a ton of lessons in terms of like nutrition, in terms of understanding what the body needs when it's under like high load, high stress, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to recovery, especially with performance, you think about what you're trying to do with taking things in, right? With eating, with drinking. After any sort of exercise, you're trying to replenish what you lost,
Yeah.
right? So first and foremost, that's protein, carbohydrates, water, and electrolytes, right? That's really what you're kind of using, what you need to replenish the body after a workout. On top of that, omega-3s have actually been shown to really help with that muscle soreness, with that recovery after a workout. And it's just a good thing to be taken as well. There's benefits for the brain, there's benefits for the heart, there's benefits for the mood. It's something that I recommend almost everybody taking. And
Okay.
again, any sort of like supplementary advice, definitely talk to a doctor. Make sure that don't just take my word for it. Every individual person is going to have different needs.
Of course, yes.
Just a disclaimer, but fish oils, omega-3s are huge for managing that inflammation, right? And that's really what recovery and muscle soreness is all about. It's about managing inflammation.
Creatine.
Creatine is also it's one of the most highly studied. I think it is the most highly studied supplement. And I do believe it has a massive effect in terms of replenishing like ATP stores, energy stores in the body after workout. I think there's even studies showing that it reduces muscle soreness. I know in runners, there are studies showing that it can help with runners. It's kind of I was looking into that research when I was running because I was like, do I continue taking creatine? Because it does make your body hold more water, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to make you heavier if you're running a marathon. Adding 5 pounds of water weight is it's a load on your back. It's going to make a big difference over 42 kilometers, right? But it seemed that the benefits of creatine kind of outweighed that negative.
Yeah, I've been even hearing studies about them giving creatine to even like women that are in their 80s just for like to retain muscle. And it used to be such a controversial thing, and I think that's lingered over even years and years and years after. You bring up creatine to people sometimes, and they're just like they think it's a kind of a taboo,
it's steroids,
right? Yeah. Definitely.
But it's naturally occurring in the body. Your body makes it anyways. It's naturally occurring in red meat. But making sure that your stores are topped up with supplementation can definitely be beneficial.
You boys taking the creatine?
Oh yeah.
When I remember.
One of the questions we get a lot from our clients is like, what should I eat before a workout? And I always tell them like it really varies between people. For me, I usually like working out on an empty stomach, or 3 hours before I'll have something.
Yeah, me too.
Is there like a particular go-to snack that you would recommend? A runner, someone going for a long distance, and then B, someone that's doing like a high intensity 45-minute workout.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like most of the times I work out in the morning fasted. It's kind of just personal preference. Like I just my stomach doesn't feel good if I eat right before a workout.
Yeah.
So and if you're working out for like 45 minutes to an hour to maybe an hour and a half, it doesn't seem like you really need to have those extra glycogen stores or glucose stores, right? When you're getting into more long distance training, you definitely need to make sure you have enough glucose, enough glycogen, because you're going to be burning so much, and you do run the risk of the stores in your muscles starting to actually get fully depleted, and literally you can run out of muscle glycogen. And that's what can happen in marathoners when they hit a certain point. They call it the wall, where you run out of energy. So your body's gas tank is literally empty. It has nowhere to pull.
So your performance will just automatically dip. And I'm guessing, and I'm guessing injury just goes way up. Chance of injury
risk is probably way up too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that's going on for like an hour 15, you probably don't need to be taking like intra workout, nutrition during the workout.
No gels or nothing like that, but
no, not necessarily. Maybe for a high rocks, I would say anything that's going over that like 45 minutes to an hour, it could even be worth supplementing some of those running gels.
Right.
For like those last stages of the high rocks, right?
100 wall balls.
Yeah.
Optimal
100 wall balls. That's
the lunges and the wall balls. Ooh.
Disgusting.
Okay. Cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, no. I'm going to put some gels in. I'm going to take some gels.
Yeah, it gives you a nice little excuse for a bit of a break too, right?
Yeah. One question we have, every client or every person you see is obviously different, and you have to assess them. But why is a back injury so prominent in people? Everyone has a sore back.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to give like a full direct answer, because like you said, everyone's going to be a little bit different. The back is the core, though. The back is like the center of the body, and the core is every athlete, like the hips and the core, their body, their sport requires so much of that area, right?
Yeah.
It transfers force from the lower body to the upper body. If you're a baseball pitcher, the force starts in that back foot, and then as you go to explode, same as a quarterback, as you go to explode, the force doesn't get to the hand if it doesn't get transferred through the core.
Right.
So we ask so much of the lower back, especially on a day-to-day basis, especially with training, with doing some of the core exercises, with doing deadlifts, with doing squats. Like it takes the entire load of the upper body on these few key areas, right? So I think that's probably one of the reasons fitness-wise why people get injured, and then probably even more so is just the way that we live now, right?
Yeah.
We sit so much. We're on our phones all the time. We're driving. I always say like people, so many people that come into my office, they just go from chair to chair to chair to chair until they sleep at night,
Yeah.
right? Like they wake up, they're at their desk for 9 hours, then they drive, then they sit on the couch, and then they might lie down and then, doom scroll
Repeat.
TikTok for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then go to bed and do it all over again, right? So sitting, that lack of movement, that lack of, if you're sitting for 9 or 10 hours, your core, your back is not going to be prepared to do what you need to do, right?
Mm.
Which is why, one more thing, which is why the warm up is also so important, right? And I think at Resilience, one of the things I noticed right away is you guys do a really good functional warm up. I think one of the first classes I did was the High Rocks class.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really liked about it was that I forget what specific movement you guys were focusing on, but you made the warm up match the movement, right? So
Yeah.
prepping the body, making sure if you're doing a lot of squats, you're spending time in that squat position, warming up the muscles that you're going to be using to squat, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit more about the back. Is there? I try to do this in the warm up. Just maybe I'm selfish because like my back's so tight, so I often do these warm ups when I'm coaching or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of exercises you would recommend? Everyone is an individual, but they can like maintain the back, like some, for someone that's like sitting all the time, like you said, go from chair to chair to chair.
Yeah.
Is there like a couple exercises that you would say, or stretches that they can do to just try to keep that good bang for buck stuff to keep their back healthy?
Yeah, I think everybody should be doing some sort of like cat cow type of like spinal movement, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things about sitting is that your spine always stays in that one position, right?
Yeah.
So your spine can bend forwards, it can bend backwards, it can rotate side to side. You can get some rotation in there as well. When people just go from chair to chair to chair and they're just sitting all day, your spine is just sitting in one place, right? So there's a number of things that happen there. You're not getting enough nutrients into the tissues, into the joints. Because side note here, I'm going to try not to go too far off topic, but your body and your joints need movement in order to maintain their health, right?
Yeah.
So there's no direct arteries going into your knee, for example. Your knee gets nutrients in and gets waste products out by you stepping and walking and having that compressive force on the knee followed by decompressive force. It's like a sponge flushing fluid out, and then it refills.
You don't
Same thing for the
use
spine.
it, you lose it, kind of
Talk
thing.
about the importance
motion
of
is
fitness.
lotion.
Yeah, importance of moving.
Yeah.
Wow.
The importance of moving your body daily, right? Like it's huge.
So cat and cow, just flexion, extension, just to help you.
A slow cat cow should be almost like a non-negotiable thing that almost everybody should be doing every single day. It's kind of like brushing your teeth or flossing your teeth. Like it's just good for spinal hygiene, basically, right? It keeps your joints moving every single day. And then one of the things I like about those daily movement practices is that if you do something like that every single day, you notice when things are off. If you don't move your body very often, you might not even realize when things are starting to get stiff, right? So you're able to get in front of these things when you notice things are off by just a little bit, right?
That's why the warm up is so important. It's like if you're tuned into the warm up, you can kind of tell how your body's feeling and then scale your training. Like if you're feeling, do a cat cow, you just feel a tweak. You don't want to squat as hard as you can on that day, right?
Modify.
We were talking about this yesterday, like body awareness, just knowing how your body's feeling and being super familiar with all of it.
Yeah, the physical, the mental, emotional, the everything, right?
Totally. How do you encourage your clients to develop that awareness?
Those daily movement practices, I think, is the best place to pay attention to that when it comes to the physical. So if you move your shoulder every day, you move your elbows every day, you move your knee every day, you do something like controlled articular rotations, and you have some sort of practice where you do that every day. You're getting into the hips, the shoulders, the knees, everything, the ankles. You start to build this sort of like library of how you're used to your body feeling.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I know that probably went way over people's head.
It's good though.
The cars that you were talking about, what is that?
Yeah, so a CAR is basically a controlled articular rotation. So it comes from the FRC program, which is a really great course. I know Jerica took that course. I took another course that was similar to that as well. But it's taking a joint and it's basically taking it through a full circle, right? Can we see through the wrist, right? If we're doing it for the wrist, we're going to go down. We're going to go around, and you're taking that joint through its full usable range of motion, pain-free, making sure you're not pushing into pain. But if you're doing that with the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the neck, the back, everything on a day-to-day basis, you're building this library of what your body is used to feeling like.
So I'm gonna rip on my dad for a second. He hurt his ankle the other day, and I was talking to my stepmom, and they were just going through cars on his ankle, and we've been telling him, "You need to stretch. You need to stretch. You need to move." Just that because he's never done that, he had such a hard time bringing awareness to his foot and
Yeah.
making circles. He couldn't even do it. He just moving his whole knee.
Yeah, it's
Right?
crazy
So
sometimes. Like because I do this on a day-to-day basis too. You get someone in there, and the spine is something that's so
Stuck.
foreign to some people, right? Like you get them into that cat-cow position, and you demonstrate it for them, and they see you're going into like spinal extension, spinal flexion, and then you get them onto the table or onto the floor on the mat, and they try to replicate it, and they're moving their elbows, they're doing like a prayer type of thing.
yeah.
Their spine just does, they don't even have they're lacking the connection, that mind to muscle, mind to joint, mind to body connection, to be able to even control their joints in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that only happens when people are sedentary and they're not moving for years and for decades at a time.
And that just I feel like the mind muscle thing and like bringing awareness to the body, it just translates so much to training as well, right? Like, so when you're squatting with a barbell, like just being kind of aware of how your body's moving, how
Yeah.
you're deadlifting, it all translates. They go back and forth, like performance, recovery. I just
Yeah.
feel like the more you
That's
do
the
that
motto.
stuff, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think just to add onto that, like that's why movement is just so important too, right? Is just like a mechanic, like an F1 driver, just being able to know when the mechanics of your body are a little bit off and then getting in front of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of injuries, a lot of times, could be prevented if people just got out in front of it and realized that they're at that point where they're kind of pushing their tissues a little bit too far. Maybe they're building up some inflammation and some tendons, that sort of thing. And a lot of times when you're aware of that, you're able to mitigate it and to get out in front of it being an actual major injury that keeps them out of the gym.
So you really have to educate people to understand that they need to be aware first.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a journey. It takes time.
It does take
And
time.
people want to transform overnight.
Yeah.
In fitness and with what you guys do.
Yeah.
And it's really about understanding first and then going through the journey and adjusting along the way.
100%.
And it takes time.
Yeah.
And
Everything in the body takes time, right?
Right.
That's a constant discussion that I have with people who are injured, right? Is that there's nothing in the body that happens like that, right?
Yeah.
Except, unfortunately, the only bad, except for an injury.
Wow.
You can break, you can tear an ACL, you can snap you can snap your leg in a split second, but that takes 6 to 8 to whatever weeks to a year to recover from, right? If you're trying to lose weight, if you guys have your members with their own personal fitness goals, nothing is going to happen in one game day class or one high rocks class, right? Like it's just stacking, workouts on top of workouts and just consistency over months, over years, over decades. That is the only way that you're going to actually create those changes.
And these conversations that you guys often have with your clients.
Yeah.
So they're also becoming aware of this.
Yeah.
And being educated as they go. So the whole goal is to get them injury free and then to continue to maintain and add these layers on over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think education is probably one of the biggest tools that I can provide, and that our staff, our therapists can provide to our clients and our patients, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole, like, the more that they are educated, the more that they understand these things, the better they're going to be able to perform. I hate seeing someone get pain-free from an injury and then come back 2 months later with that same injury, right? We want to make sure that as they're recovering, they're able to perform at their best, but then at the same time, we want to prevent those things from happening again.
What also is hard to see is when someone's so geared towards their goals, let's say losing weight or something, or getting fit, and they're going so hard. They're so driven that they're just like, they're not focused on recovery. They're just focused on trying to get their goal, and they're working so hard. So you have so much compassion for them because they're going for their goals, and then they get injured because they're not listening to their body. It's hard to see sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. I think for everybody who's starting all of your new members, anyone who's starting January 2025 with these massive fitness goals, like let's say they haven't worked out in 10 years and they're not happy with that. They're trying to make a change. They're trying to lose X amount of pounds, or they're trying to gain muscle, whatever that is. You really have to make sure that you're doing things slowly, right? Focus on the fact that you're just focus on the goal of just getting to the gym 4 times a week, instead of focusing on those external goals.
So what would you recommend? Let's take a person, for example. We have people like this all the time. They have never worked. Maybe they haven't worked out in 5 years. They're getting back into it. What would you recommend to them to make sure that they don't maybe get injured, or what things can they be aware of? We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah. I would say slow down. So if this is you, slow down, enjoy the journey, focus on building the habits and the foundation that's going to keep you in the gym for, you got to think long term, right? It's the same as business, right? You don't want to start a business that's going to collapse in a year. You want to start a business that is in the place that you guys are at 10 years later and growing and sustainable, right? So look at building those habits that are also going to be sustainable. Go slow. And when it comes to injury prevention and like my bread and butter, right? Like we don't want to see, one of the biggest things that's going to set you back in those goals, that's going to derail that consistency, is if you are getting injured, right? If you have this tendonitis that keeps coming back, if every time you squat you feel this knee pain, that's going to be the number one thing that's going to derail progress. If you have to take a month off, it's going to be really hard to get back into that afterwards, right?
I remember you mentioned yesterday, because we had a chat, like one of the things that they should be totally aware of, and I thought it was very interesting, was just their injury history and being super aware of that, and making sure that's in the forefront of their mind when they're going through stuff. So so that they don't overdo it.
100%.
Yeah.
Like know where your base is, know where you're starting from. Know that if you have a shoulder that's bothered you a lot in the past, number one, get it assessed, go see a professional. Make sure you know what you're dealing with, and make sure that you're not just self-diagnosing yourself. So having that profession, just like having a coach, it can help you just understand what you can and can't do, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that you have this previous injury, knowing that every time you try to work out, your shoulder starts to hurt, and then as soon as your shoulder starts to hurt, you take weeks off the gym, and then it's just this cycle where you just lose all that momentum, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that before you get into it, and then basically do it, modifying exercises. If your shoulder hurts, barbell overhead press is probably going to be really tough on that joint.
Yeah.
But a single arm dumbbell press is going to be a lot safer. A landmine press is going to put the shoulder in a much safer position. So you can still get the training stimulus without that risk on the joint, without putting too much strain on a sensitive tendon, on a sensitive joint.
And I think it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think there's a misconception too, that from people that are just new to training, thinking that like even the highest end athletes don't go through injuries and modify and work through that. Because what we see often is we see someone get hurt their shoulder and then we never see them again, because even sometimes physios and stuff tell them, oh, you got to rest. Don't do anything. Anything. And it's like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting topic. I really wanted to touch on.
I could talk about that for hours.
There's kind of two schools of thought, right? It's like rest and don't do anything.
Yeah.
Or the other side.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
that's the education side. That's the applying your education and working through it, right?
Yeah. So for me, like I don't even remember ever, or the last time I ever told somebody to absolutely rest and don't do anything. Right. Like for me, that's never the answer. If I hurt my ankle, I'm gonna be doing upper body. Biceps are gonna be pumped. I'm gonna be working through everything else, right? But at the same time, I'm gonna be asking as much as I can from my ankle. Right. So I'm doing, if I sprain my ankle, I'm still gonna be just taking it through really light ranges of motion at first, and then building up to some banded stuff. Like rest is almost, I would say rest is never the answer. Back in the 80s, they used to prescribe bed rest for back pain and bed rest for neck pain. Same thing with concussions, like dark room, don't do anything. What they're finding now is that the absolute worst thing that you can do for your body is rest, right? Like think about if you guys have been sick, if you have to spend a week in bed with fever, everything like that, think about how horrible your back feels after that.
100%.
Right. And then imagine starting that week with immense back pain.
This is such a beaten down way of thinking.
Yeah,
people have been thinking for years.
And it happens so often
100%.
with people. Like I'm thinking of so many people that get injured and then they're just like, oh, physio told me to take 8 weeks off, and then never see them again. It's just like kills all their motivation. They worked hard, they saw some results, and then back to zero, right? It's so debilitating for their mental, right?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, right? I think is the mental and just getting out of that momentum, right? Like if you're injured, keep showing up, right? Like what's your motto? You guys say all you have to do is show up, right? Just still show up. let the coaches know what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure, rely on the coaches to be able to give you modifications. Know your body enough to know that you maybe if you're dealing with a shoulder injury where you can't lift your arm overhead, even just to like wash your hair, you probably shouldn't be doing a max barbell overhead press.
So true. Yeah.
Right. But you can still run, you can still do
Still be
lunges,
there.
you can still be there,
Yeah.
right? Even just consistently keeping that habit of still showing up to the gym day in, day out, even if you
It's a
just show
discipline,
up
yeah.
and you put the clothes on
So true, man.
and you go in the corner and you just stretch during a class, you're still, your body, your brain, your whole body still knows that that's what you like, that's the habit that you've built, and you can maintain that habit, right?
On my football team, we used to have a rule: if you were injured, you had to be at practice.
Exactly.
Because it kept you dialed in, engaged, and you can really go through a lot of mental battles when you're injured like that. But it keeps you fresh in the community or around people, and staying engaged, right?
That's a great point.
I want to touch on one more thing because I think it's prevalent to our clients that may be listening. So a lot of people are training for high rocks and they're increasing their running capacity quite a bit. And you often see running increases, injuries start to happen. So what would you recommend for someone that's really increasing their running, how to go about it? What kind of like things should they know about when they're taking on a little bit more running than they're used to?
Yeah, I think again, it goes back to those same principles we talked about earlier, like knowing where you're starting from and then having a good plan with steady progression going from, from where you're at to where you're trying to be, right? Again, nothing happens fast in the body. Everything has to happen slowly, right?
Yeah.
So with running, there's a 10% rule. You don't want to increase your mileage more than 10% per week, right? So if you're at 30 kilometers a week to begin, the next week you go up to 33 and then 36 and then 40 and so on and so forth. Gradual increase. It's all about that, like that performance and then the recovery, right? The performance is the run. You have to give your body time to adapt to whatever it is that you're doing, right? And if you just keep running and you just keep breaking down that tissue, that's where a lot of times those injuries happen. And with running, it's a lot of times it's more of a sensitization, more of like a tissue sort of like inflammation type of injury. Most people aren't running, going out for a jog and tearing ACLs, right?
Yeah.
Like these are injuries that happen because you're taking 10,000 steps in a 10K run. It's if you start to accumulate some load on some sort of a joint, that's happening, and it's amplified times 10,000 because you're taking that many steps, right? So those little things really become massive.
So when it's like an inflammation thing, it's usually too much too quick, is what you're saying, usually.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to stress.
Yeah.
Right. Stress, there's so many factors, right?
Yeah,
If you're
true.
not sleeping, your body's the inflammation level is gonna be higher. If you're eating McDonald's 3 times a day or whatever, like or drinking a lot, your inflammation level is gonna be higher. If work has you stressed out, if you're dealing with things like psychologically in your personal life, whatever that is, that's not going to put your body in the optimal state to be able to perform, right? So you're going to start to build up these sort of like inflammation debts, like you're not clearing out the inflammation fast enough. That's putting yourself at a much higher risk of those sorts of injuries.
So slowly adding 3 kilometers a week.
Yeah, 10%, just 10% more. The other thing that I would say is making sure that the running form gets looked at. I think that's really, really important, especially if you're starting running from a place where you're not seasoned, you haven't, done a lot of running in the past. Because so a lot of people don't really consider running like the form, right? If someone's going to start a sport like basketball or whatever, you're going to look at the form. Okay, what does my elbow need to be doing in order to complete this jump shot, right?
Yeah.
Most people just understand or just think about running. All right, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Yeah.
Speed it up, do it a little faster. Now you're running, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times I do running assessments in the clinic, and you see that people's running form is it's off, right?
Yeah.
They're not taking enough steps per minute. They're landing hard with their foot out in front of their body, landing hard on their heels. They're not absorbing force as efficiently as they could be. Yeah. Once you start absorbing force more efficiently, you're able to run longer with less of a load on the body, right? So, I mean, this could be a whole podcast in and of itself, just in terms of like running form.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, even just looking at YouTube videos, there's so much information on the internet now. Like you can go and you can figure out what good running form looks like, and you can take a video of yourself and you can kind of like analyze that as well, right? Like there's so much free information out there, but definitely I would say focus on the form, whether that's getting a professional to look at it.
Yeah.
even some sort of friend who knows their stuff.
Yeah.
We got to do that at Resilience. We got to get some
100%. I have a random question. I don't even know. It's just out of curiosity. So inflammation, right?
Yeah.
If there's no pain, is there any way to tell if your body's like starting to build up that inflammation? Like, yeah. Or like, yeah.
I mean, I think there's going to be signs. I'm not. That's a tough question. Give me a think here. Pain is so complex. Pain is so like, and again, I could talk about pain for like an hour, right? I think, I mean, if you're not coming back for your next workout, or if when you come back for your next workout, you're feeling like you're not fully recovered, like the workouts feel a lot harder, you're fatigued. I think fatigue is probably the next best way to monitor that. If your fatigue levels are starting to build and build and build.
Yeah.
And you find that the workouts are just crushing you. It's almost like they're pushing you down and down and down instead of you're working out. Like an ideal training program involves adaptations, right? So your training and your capacity, your limit is like here, and then you're pushing yourself just right up to that edge.
Yeah.
But then you have to recover. You have to give your body time to adapt to that stimulus, right? You have to give it time to get stronger, build more muscle, build more ligament, and then you do it again, and you just keep building that higher and higher and higher. But if you're not seeing that improvement, if you're starting to see yourself kind of, it feels like you're just getting pushed down with each workout, you're probably overtraining or you're not recovering adequately for the next workout.
Okay, makes sense.
This is all so encouraging going into the new year, because there's so many new people coming in like in the next couple of weeks, and just hearing this is just encouraging me as a coach, like just to give them like an understanding, like take your time.
Yeah.
Make sure you feel good when you go home tonight and recover.
Slow down,
come back. Like, we're not a boot camp, right? So we're not screaming at people telling them to do 100 burpees. Hey, go at your own pace. Listen to your body. If you need to step out, step out. Come back in when you're ready.
And instilling that education in them to be aware of, like, what their body, listen to their body. Very important.
And it gives you hope, right? Like, hearing this, because it's like, okay, like, it is a journey. I can wake up each day and add a little bit more, become more familiar with what I can do.
Yeah.
So this is encouraging me.
Let's go, Dan.
I think you see. So the other thing that I see for people, like we talked about injury setting people back from those like new fitness goals. The other thing that I see and people talk about all the time, even in the clinic, is that when they try to start a workout program, it's almost like they're trying to make up for lost time.
Totally, man.
And then they crush their legs, and they can't even use the toilet for like a week afterwards, right? Like
all the time, man.
Yeah. They can't go up and down stairs. Everything hurts for it. Like that is completely going to derail, that momentum that they had leading into the new year, right?
It's a really good point.
One of the challenges of group training is that, because when people are in that atmosphere, they push. Because they're training next to someone. And it's like, hey, listen, like, the person next to you might be at a different place.
Right.
Like, don't try to like beat that person next to you. Like, just run your race, man.
Yeah. 100%. So easier said than done, but that's
totally very
100%. Like, people need to know. And I get into that same sort of like competitive when I'm in your resilience classes, right? Like, it's hard to pull yourself back when you see the person next to you still going. And that's the beauty of it, but it's kind of a double-edged sword too at the same time, where you want to make sure that you're still not pushing yourself past those limits, right?
And that can be the challenge of a coach too. Like, you're trying to push them 100%. Because maybe they need a push, but there's also that too far type of thing, right?
Yeah, you want to keep it intense and competitive, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. For sure.
I think you talked about that one of the first times we met, Andrew. You're talking about how, like, one of the things you love about coaching is kind of knowing and understanding what each person wants, or what each person might need in a moment, right?
Absolutely.
Knowing when to hit the gas and push that person a little harder, and then knowing when to just like step back and
absolutely
just,
it's coaching.
It's
coaching. It's like knowing the person too. Sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's nonverbal. Sometimes it's body language, cues. It's fun. That makes it engaging.
So we've talked we can keep going.
I know there's so many topics of pain too. Pain
is huge.
Do you want to keep going? Because I want to ask him more a little bit about the entrepreneur too. But
I do have a question about glute activation.
Okay.
So when I was playing sports, a lot of my coaches talked to me about glute activation, and even in that NFL, I see a lot of guys really out there an hour before the game activating their glutes, doing different mini band stuff. Why? What role do the glutes play in performance? just functional training? And then is it super important to get those fired up before a workout?
Yeah, 100%. So it's in the same way that the core is transferring all that force. Like when we're talking about athletics, the core is so important because it transfers force from your leg to your arms and vice versa. The glutes are like the powerhouse. The glutes are the engine that actually creates that force, right?
Mm,
In basketball, people think, okay, if I want to jump higher, I need to like train the calves, right? They're doing all these calf raises and getting more like,
Yeah.
plyometric type stuff just with the calves, but all the power comes from the hips,
mm,
right? So all the power in athletics, the glutes are the biggest, most powerful muscle in the body. If you are not engaging them, if you're not able to activate them, if you're not able to, um, yeah, like just activate them at a high level, you're not going to be as good of an athlete straight up. All the activation stuff is super important, and that just goes for any type of workout. If you're gonna hit chest, doing some activation stuff for the shoulder, anything that's just gonna prime the muscles that are going to be used in the workout
mm.
is gonna be super important,
Okay.
right? So definitely, yeah, mini band activations, whatever it is, just something to kind of tell the brain, okay, this is build that connection between the brain and the muscle. This is how we fire it. This is what it feels like to fire it.
Mm.
Get the blood flowing into the muscle, and then you're ready to go.
Interesting. Very interesting. Like even brain activation,
Yeah.
like getting your brain ready for a workout. When I was on vacation, I was reading this book, and I'm just starting to really learn about running, like longer distance running.
Yeah.
And he was talking about warming up and the importance of activating your brain because it sends a signal to your body, right?
Mm.
To go, to go, to go. So just slowly progressing and then doing a few 40, 50-yard sprints. Because then
Right.
your brain tells your legs, you got to go, you
Yeah.
got to go. So
Right.
just learning more about that and how important that is.
The
Yeah.
brain is the most challenging thing in the long distance running, man. It's like can be your biggest enemy, right?
Mm.
Like just knowing that you got so much
The
to go.
mind, yeah.
The mind, yeah.
Yeah, long distance running, same as any sort of endurance sport or endurance activity is like you're going to war with your brain, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're doing high rocks, your brain's going to tell you to slow down every single station,
Mhm.
right? Same as running, your brain's going to be like, all right, this is a lot. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, and you kind of have to just be like, okay, that's fine. Like we're good. We're going to keep going. We have to push it.
Mm.
It's that mental kind of like back and forth, right?
Is the brain in survival mode? It's like basically telling your
Yeah.
body you need to stop because
Yeah.
you need to stop because your body is you're not going to survive, but your body can actually do it.
Yeah.
So it's
I
this.
think it's like your brain has this governor on it that wants to keep you in your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
It wants to keep you safe. But it also sends those signals. I think it tries to tell you to stop way before your actual true limit is, right?
Right.
That's why I love working out. It's such a parallel to life, right? Like you work on something, you do something uncomfortable, and that's life.
Yeah.
If you're growing, you got to get out of your comfort zone to
Yeah.
grow, right? So I think it's like a daily reminder of getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that's
Yeah.
hard and challenging, right? To grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff, man.
It's nice when the workout is the hardest thing in your day, right? Like if you're able to
get through it.
if you're able to get through that workout where you thought you were going to throw up or you thought you were going to pass out and you got through it, then everything else just seems a lot easier.
I've been feeling a lot of those with the Cena workouts.
My patient had me feeling that. Yes, that 2 days ago. Patient, I'm gonna puke.
How we're pretty deep in
This is
here.
good. I mean, we could do like 4-part series on all these things we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down.
Let's flip the switch.
Yeah.
And talk about a little bit about entrepreneurship. It's something we often talk about because Josh and I are really passionate about taking risks and entrepreneurship, and I know you are too. What is entrepreneurship to you?
That's a tough question. I think at this point it's become kind of like a lifestyle. I think it's been my biggest challenge so far has been starting this business. It's pushed me way outside of my comfort zone, like we kind of talked about. It's been exciting. It's been crazy. There's been like ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. It's chaos.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's fun. It's kind of like bringing you back into that old athletic type of mindset, right? Where there's something that you're kind of like looking for, something you have to perform. You have to do things on a day-to-day basis that you might not want to do. And you have to perform when you're tired. You have to perform when you're, stressed or you're dealing with other stuff in your personal life. And you have to just be able to manage all those things. And I think the past year and we're only like just brand new starting this, right? So it's been kind of a whirlwind. But it's been fun. It's been a journey. I think to me, to sum it up, I think it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge that like I've learned to love in the same way that like most people, when they hear I want to do a marathon, they think I'm crazy, right? But I think it's this, they're very, like you talked about, Josh, right? Like you talked about exercising being so parallel to life, right? I think training and exercise is so similar to entrepreneurship, where you're pushing yourself to a level that you didn't know
Yeah.
you could get to, right?
Yeah.
How important is passion and course correcting to you in this entrepreneurship journey? Because you said, it gets you out of bed.
Yeah.
That passion, does that fuel you every day?
Yeah. I mean,
There's also a practical side of I need to do XYZ.
yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
do the admin. I need to do this.
Yeah.
But then there's a passion side, right?
Yeah. I mean, the passion is like the purpose, right? Like I think it's the purpose that kind of drives you. You really have to, I think one of the things I've learned is you have to be really in touch with what that purpose is, right? And why you're doing the things that you're doing, and have kind of like a greater goal other than just, the simple fact of kind of like running a business, right? Because then it just turns into a job. It's having like this, it's your baby, right? It's having this thing that you want to grow, you want to nourish, you want to nurture, and then having a staff on top of that as well, right? Like that also creates purpose, right? Being able to see some of the growth in our staff over the last
So cool.
year and a bit has been amazing to see, right? Which is just something that I never really even considered when we started this journey, but being able to see that has been amazing. Like, seeing the confidence build, seeing them come into their own, and it's not like I can even take credit for any of that. They're growing on their own, and like, they're thriving.
What I was going to ask him,
Yes.
what do you find is your purpose? Or what is your why for it?
Yeah.
Do you have a why?
Yeah, I think I was built to do it. Like I think I kind of stumbled upon this profession almost by accident, but it's what I was meant to do. I think like I love doing it. I love being able to talk to people. I love helping people perform and get after the goals that they're trying to get after, as well as get them back into doing the things that they love to do. So being able to do that on a day-to-day basis is amazing. Like seeing how much gratitude comes from getting someone who, working out is their life, right? Like you guys know when this is your lifestyle, you need to work out. When you don't work out, it affects you psychologically, emotionally, everything, right?
Yeah.
So the gratitude that you see when you can get somebody from not being able to work out or not being able to perform at their sport back to back on the court, running a race, running a marathon, a high rocks, whatever that is, that's kind of like that's what gets me out of bed in the morning as well, right?
And you had an amazing story
So
that
good.
I want you to share. We were talking yesterday, kind of like a life-changing story for you about your shoulder. Do you think you can share that?
Yeah, for sure.
Before you share it, I just want to say like the passion usually comes from an experience.
Yeah.
And it usually comes from something that, if someone has a driving passion, it's something that they've experienced in their life, and then you want to give it to others.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just to give a little context to his story.
Yeah. So what the story I was telling yesterday was basically how I got into this profession in the first place. And like I said, I kind of stumbled into it. Like, it's not like I was 5 years old and I was like, I want to be a chiropractor, right? Like it was, I don't even know what it would have been at that age. Probably like a pro hockey player or something like that. But
some athlete.
unfortunately it didn't work out. But when I was in grade 11 or grade 12, at some point, somewhere around that timeline, like I really hurt my shoulder. So I was playing baseball. I was playing for multiple teams, a high school team as well as like a rep team. I was a typical, high school kid going into the gym just with a year or two of lifting experience and just like pumping, just hitting bench press, maxing out on the bench, bicep curls, maybe throw in deadlifts once in a while. But for the most part, it was just like
getting 225 up.
Exactly. Like hitting 2 plates by like grade 12.
Yeah.
And then playing baseball. Like looking back, of course, I was gonna like my shoulder was gonna say enough is enough at some point, right? But it got to the point where like through grade 12 and first year, maybe even second year university, where my arm was just like not functional, right? So it became this chronic shoulder issue that eventually started to affect my elbow and my wrist, like my whole right side. I couldn't lift weights. I couldn't play baseball anymore. Even playing hockey, I remember I would still play, but every time I would get hit, like it was killing me, right? But hockey, for some, maybe it just because there's so much adrenaline, I was still able to play, right? But it got to the point where even like in lecture, I couldn't write. I would just sit there and I would just listen, right?
Yeah.
And I had done a lot of therapy in the past. I'd seen a lot of people, and for the most part, they were just addressing the shoulder. I saw, physios, massage therapists, acupuncturists as well. And it wasn't until I saw this specific individual who happened to be a chiropractor, and he kind of looked outside of the box and he looked at the neck and the whole system in general.
Yeah.
And within about 3 weeks to a month, the pain was just it was gone, and I had my life back. I had those things that I love to do. I was able to do them again. And I want to make it clear too. I don't think that it was just because they were a chiropractor. I think the right individual the right individual would have also seen that that issue, whether it was physio or chiro or massage. It's more about just that perspective of being able to look outside of the box and figure out what the issue is, what's causing that pain, right?
It's amazing story.
So that experience just
so as soon as
trajectory.
I remember like leaving there and just being like, wow, like this is what I want to do this, right? And I was already luckily in kinesiology. I didn't go into engineering or something like this, so it wasn't like I had to make a huge switch, but it was just I was already kind of heading in that direction, and then that kind of pushed me.
Fueled your passion.
Yeah.
So cool. It's awesome, man. So cool. That's so cool. Entrepreneurship, service industry. We're not selling, computers. We're not selling articles of clothing. We're selling a service.
Yeah.
And I've come to see you 3 or 4 times. It's been awesome. And the service that you've helped me with has been awesome. But there's this connection, this human side that I've really enjoyed spending time with you. And you walk me through things and really explain things. Entrepreneurship is focusing on others, and I've seen you do that. And
right.
Is that something you continue to think about through your day-to-day journey?
Yeah, I think in this profession, being a therapist, being a chiropractor, same as physio, same as massage, you have to focus on others. It's literally what you do, right? If you are focusing on yourself when you're treating someone else, you're going to just be completely missing the boat.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to be able to connect with that person on a deeper level, figure out what makes them tick, ask questions about their stress levels, their lifestyle, their sleep, their habits, their nutrition, everything as well, right? Put together this whole kind of holistic image of who the person is in front of you, and then being able to pick and choose what, in the same way that you have to kind of pick and choose how to push somebody. It's picking and choosing which treatments, what the right things to say are to that person, because even sometimes, like I have some people who really their body is just in such a stressed out state that no amount of acupuncture, soft tissue work, adjustments, any of that hands-on type of stuff, like it's going to help in the short term. But when their body's not in a state that can even like accept healing, and their body's not in a state that's even going to be able to recover, they're constantly kind of getting pushed into this just like fight or flight mode, right? So sometimes it's more even just like stress, and just having them understand that, having them make changes in their life to get them to where they want to be.
So education
is everything.
Yeah. That's awesome. I want to ask you a little bit about since you started, what has been the biggest challenge you feel like, or what has really been a challenge that you're in your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, the whole thing has been a challenge. I think it's been a challenge just every day to be able to keep showing up with the same energy. Showing up, being at the clinic 6 days a week, on top of doing my own sort of like fitness goals, on top of training for whatever it was before it was a marathon, but just continuing to keep like the fitness high, continuing to manage my own health on top of doing everything and juggling everything at the clinic as well, right? I've never understood how valuable time is until you start doing this, right? As you guys know. I would say that, and then also the newer part of having to manage a team, understanding what a team member, what a therapist, what some like front desk employee might need from us at any given moment, what environment that we can create that's going to push them to be the best that they can be as well, right?
Awesome.
So good.
And what do you love most? One more question. What do you love most about it?
It's fun, man. I don't know. it's tough just to nail down one thing. Like it's building the brand, building the community. It's all of these opportunities that come out of it, right? Like being on a podcast with you guys, like it's crazy, right? All of these new experiences, getting to network with different people, meeting a lot of amazing people, having more people kind of come in, meeting different people, welcoming them into our network, our community. And then at the same time, from like a staff level, from internal level, being able to build that community as well, like having fun with our staff, doing a Christmas party, doing Thanksgiving type things. We did like a little impromptu karaoke for someone's birthday. During our typical time where we teach, like we have a weekly hour where we do rounds, where we try to learn from each other.
Amazing.
But it was between, and it was this was the time between Christmas and New Year's, right? So we weren't gonna, bog them down. I didn't want to make one of our massage therapists, Kyle, we didn't want to make him have to present and work over the Christmas time, right? So instead, we just did a little
Cool.
impromptu karaoke.
I like that idea.
I asked Jerica if she had any board games, and she said, "Well, I have a karaoke microphone, so I'll bring that in." I was like, "All right,
nice." I like that you mentioned rounds where you learn from each other.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. So you guys each share a couple things.
Yeah. I think in the beginning we started out where it was us doing most of the teaching, myself and Jerica, kind of sharing the responsibility on that. But recently we've also just gone with the whole staff, everybody that we have there on Friday. We go from take turns researching something and making some sort of like a presentation.
That's very good, man.
Such a good idea.
Constant education, constant learning. That's really cool.
So before we wrap it up and really ask you, where can people find you? Where can they get connected with you? Let's do a couple of rapid round questions, a couple of broad questions.
You love these.
10 seconds to answer. We'll go back and forth.
Oh man.
First question.
Put me on the spot. Okay, go ahead.
What would you tell the Dan 5 years younger?
I would say, don't be afraid to fail. Take some risks. Get outside of your comfort zone. I think 5 years ago, I was very scared of doing something and failing. Right. So, get outside your comfort zone. Just take risks. Don't be afraid. Failure's okay. Failure is only going to make you stronger. Right.
What is one thing you really want to work on in 2025?
My recovery.
There you go.
I think a lot of these things, like I want to dial in my sleep. I think sleep is probably one of the weakest points for me.
Yeah.
I want to get my sleep dialed in. I want to spend less time on my phone.
Yeah.
Which also I think is a big impact for sleep too. But yeah, I'm in the same boat as everyone else here. I'm trying to get everything on track, health wise, recovery wise.
Are we gonna see Dan in High Rocks this year?
I was gonna ask that. I was gonna say, when are you coming to Miami with us?
Yeah, let's do it.
Your ticket?
Miami.
Miami.
He's
I don't
coming.
know.
He's coming.
Miami, we'll see. When's Miami?
April. Easter weekend, April 19th.
Maybe next year.
Nice.
Toronto. If it's coming to Toronto, I'll do it.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, there's one in
Quebec.
Yeah, April 20 something, right?
We'll do it. 2025, we'll do a High Rocks. I'll say that right.
Let's go.
Now I'm locked in.
Let's go.
I can't get out.
To be honest, I'm running out of questions. Do you have any more questions? I can't. When you put me on the spot with these rapid questions, it throws me off.
Sorry.
But it's all good. It's good.
It's all good. So where can people find you and get connected with your company and you and follow your journey? Yeah.
So it's Performance Recovery Therapy, PRT. We're located at Markham and Ellesmere in Scarborough, Ontario. Instagram, always a great way to reach us. It's PR Therapy INC as the handle. And then my personal Instagram is dr.dansilva.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I would highly recommend going to see Dan, man, and Jerica. Awesome.
100%. Even if you're not injured, just getting that education and just taking it. Yeah, you don't have to be injured to go. It's always good to go, just like we talked about this podcast.
This podcast was really encouraging for me, just to remember to, remind our clients, like, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Layer by layer by layer. And know your body.
Yeah.
And become familiar with the things.
Yeah.
Teaching people that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Focusing on recovery, prioritizing that. It's been awesome. This was sick.
Yeah,
this was fun.
First of many, hopefully.
Let's do it again. Yeah, I'm down. This was fun.
Cool, man.
All right, guys.
So, a couple days, we've got our launch workouts Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
And then revival week starts next week. So
so Saturday we're going to be in Durham. We got DJ A class there. We're going to have a really fun 2 workouts with lots of people, lots of fun, lots of sweat, and a kids workout after. And then Sunday we're coming to East York.
Let's go. So we'll see you guys out there.
Let's go. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
Are we off?